Well, good morning, everyone. It's Bronie here again for another day in Bronie's world. And at Bronie's desk, we have my dearest friend, one of my very dearest friends, Pharmacist Ben, all the way from Colorado. We've sung the song last time. And just a little disclaimer, because last fortnight I got into a little trouble with YouTube. They don't like certain words, and anyway, they put it back up because when they looked at it, they realised that we didn't, breach any gaps, but they just picked up on the word. But remember, guys, we don't profess to cure or heal anything. We are just offering you an alternative way of looking at your health and different things that you can do. But anyway, I've learnt to now put a disclaimer thing in the recording, in the replay. So you will see that. So cover our butts. Always got to cover our butts because, Big Pharma doesn't like us not. Well, getting back to the topic of the day, I asked Pharmacist Ben what was hot off the press at the moment to talk about, and he showed me something on issues surrounding ADHD and protocols for that. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you, my dear friend.
All right. Ben? You're going to hand it off to me. What do you want to talk about here? ADHD?
Yeah, yes. You sent me the thing to talk about.
Oh, I just sent you a thing. I didn't say let's talk about it. I just sent it to you. I thought it was interesting.
Yes, it was interesting, and that's why I said, "Oh, good, let's."
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting article. But ADHD is when I was in pharmacy school, it was called ADD, attention deficit disorder, and they threw in hyperactivity. And really, when you talk about psychological issues, mental health issues, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, ADHD, I feel uncomfortable just talking about it from a nutritional standpoint. And I never want to be one of those nutritionists that just says, oh, just take this pack and just take this vitamin and you're going to be all good when it comes to mental health issues. Because mental health issues are a kind of hybrid between physical issues and mental issues, mental and emotional issues, mental/emotional issues, because they're two sides of the same coin. So I feel a little uncomfortable just talking about nutritional strategies for what is at least partially a mental and emotional issue. And so while there are very important nutritional elements in terms of supplements that you can use, as well as in terms of foods that you want to stay away from, you really got to address the mental and emotional components of mental and emotional health challenges. And ADHD is at least partially that. Attention deficit oftentimes happens to really smart kids. ADHD usually affects kids who are really intelligent. And there's an overlap between curiosity and excitement and wanting to touch everything and see everything and know everything, and what adults may consider to be a disorder or inability to focus. So with that caveat, I will say that you got to handle mental and emotional issues from that level, and mental and ADHD kids need to have mental and emotional support for focus. And that involves teachers and parents and adults in the kid's life, really helping the child focus on certain things. Focus, put it that way. That being said, number one, there are wonderful nutrients that are important for mental health or brain health, we'll say. And oftentimes these nutrients are A, deficient in the diet, and B, expended, used up, as the body attempts to eliminate, detoxify, or process problem foods. So it's probably no accident and not a coincidence that the rates of attention deficit disorder, at least the diagnoses of attention deficit disorder, have increased with our intake of ultra-processed food. Today in the United States, 73% of foods in the supermarket are ultra-processed, not processed, ultra-processed. So it's hard to imagine that this is not impacting kids who are starting off their day with Pop-Tarts and Captain Crunch and a glass of orange juice and toast and a Danish, and that's really what kids are eating. As crazy as that is. I mean, if you go look at the cereal aisle, I'm sure in Australia and New Zealand it's the same thing as in the United States. It's really kind of mind-boggling. The kids are eating donut-flavored cereals and marshmallows for breakfast. I mean, it's almost in Latin they say reductio ad absurdum. You ever hear that term, reductio ad absurdum? That's when you take the most absurd. If you're going to tell us. That's when you try to prove a point by taking the most ridiculous and absurd possibility. And that's really what processed foods and the breakfast cereals that kids are ingesting before they go off to school are really reductio ad absurdum. They're the ultimate in absurdity. So you can't, it's hard to imagine this isn't having an impact on how kids behave, on kids' ability to focus, kids' ability to concentrate. So first and foremost, we got to change the way our kids eat. So ADHD, first and foremost, should be regarded, after you account for the mental and emotional aspects of it, you have to look at what the kids are eating. Kids should be starting off their day with protein and fat, good protein, good fat. Never cereal, ever. There's never, I did this, I said this on a video a couple weeks ago. There's never a reason, there's nothing okay. A healthy culture would never have McDonald's French fries. It wouldn't do it. It's just an absurd way to ingest calories in food. Cereals are the same thing. Pop-Tarts are the same thing. Danishes are the same thing. The things our kids are eating are the same thing. So kids should start off their day with protein, fish, meat, eggs, maybe dairy, and then fat, quality fat. That's very important for the developing brain. Essential fatty acid fat, ultimate EFAs, and of course supplementing with a healthy start pack for kids. As far as nutritional supplements go, it turns out that the B vitamins, especially vitamins B1 and B3, are especially important for brain health, particularly for the developing brain. And both vitamin B1 and B3 are depleted by sugar. In fact, vitamin B1 thiamine deficiency and vitamin B3 niacin deficiency are associated with mental health problems, with psychoses, with schizophrenia, with problems concentrating, with aggressive behavior, with inability to control their emotions. All of these are associated with deficiencies in the very vitamins that are used by the body to process Pop-Tarts and Captain Crunch and cereals and all the things our kids are eating. So it's hard to imagine that there's not at least some aspect of B vitamin deficiency that's associated with mental health and ADHD and ADD issues. So B vitamins, particularly B1 and B3, but all the B vitamins are very important. Where do you get your B vitamins? This is what your kid should start off his morning with. Beyond, can you say it?
Yes.
Beyond Tangy Tangerine. One of the, Beyond Tangy Tangerine is absolutely packed with nutrition, but especially with the B vitamins. The second important element for brain health, for concentration, not just for kids, by the way, but for adults, are fats. Omega-3 fats, especially from fish, as well as from seeds and flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds. All these are good sources, and green leafy vegetables. And by the way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a salad for breakfast with green leafy vegetables and fiber. Our picture of what an ideal breakfast is, believe it or not, was implanted into us by commercials and advertising and marketers, not by what's good for us or what's good for our kids. So this idea of having pancakes and cereal and toast and orange juice, which probably you do in Australia and New Zealand, we do here in the United States, that's a marketing idea. That's not there for good health. That's not there to improve our kids' ability to process information and to have a good healthy school day. That's there so they can sell cereal and they can sell Pop-Tarts. And we should be really angry about this. We should be really, really angry at the corporate swill that's being foisted upon us and upon our children through marketing and through commercials. It should be so offensive, and so we should feel so assaulted and offended by the fact that these are the kind of foods that count as good foods. Even in the schools, they serve these kinds of foods. Even in hospitals, they serve these kinds of foods as part of the culture. So we have to become really, really offended and really, really angry by this situation. So salads are not only a good source of fiber and a good source of nutrient, of brain health nutrients. It turns out that green leafy vegetables are one of nature's best sources of omega-3 fats, which are particularly important for brain health. And the health of the eyes and the health of the nervous system in general. And by the way, moms to be, pregnant moms, should be supplementing with these kinds of with omega-3 fats, as well as making sure they're getting enough omega-3 fats in their diet, because the omega-3 fats will come out in the breast milk and make a smarter baby. Or they'll just come out, they'll just go into the baby's blood supply if the baby's in the womb. So you can build a smarter baby, a baby with better hand-eye coordination, a baby with better vision, a baby with a better nervous system, moms that is, by supplementing with omega-3s. Meantime, once your kid is born and you're making him breakfast and sending him off to school, make sure he's getting some omega-3s. Ultimate EFAs and Ultimate EFA Plus are great sources of omega-3s. Put a couple of on a little plate next to his breakfast. Put a couple of Ultimate EFAs or a couple of Ultimate EFA Plus to make sure he's getting his omega-3s. Not to mention, give him foods that contain omega-3s, such as green leafy vegetables and fish, as well as flax seeds, and not just fish, but also shrimp and seafood in general are good sources of omega-3s. Then there are minerals that are particularly important for brain health. Magnesium stands out, zinc stands out, selenium stands out, and all of these are available through longevity supplements. Osteomag for magnesium, Zinc FX for zinc, and of course the Ultimate Selenium for selenium. So you can either use foods that contain these nutrients, or you can use nutritional supplements. And you want to stay away from foods that deplete these key nutrients and that put pressure on the nervous system, as well as on the child's immune system and on the child's biochemical system in general. And that is, unfortunately, most of the foods our kids love to eat, and most of the foods that society accepts as being okay for breakfast as well as for lunch and dinner. And that's the refined, processed carbs and ultra processed foods. Comes in a box with a little cartoon character on it. You can assume that that's not going to be healthy for your kid. They don't use cartoon characters to sell broccoli. They use cartoon characters to sell ultra processed foods. And that's because there's so much profit to be made in these ultra processed foods. It's worth the expense of creating cartoon characters and heavy duty marketing. And we should be really angry about that situation. And if you have a kid who has ADHD, assuming that you're dealing with it on the mental and emotional levels, and that is always important, as I said, there's a lot you could do to send your kid off to school with good nutrition so that he'll have a healthier and better functioning brain, as well as better, smoother sailing from the emotional standpoint as well. Protein, fats, and veggies should compose not just kids, all of our breakfasts. And of course, nutritional supplementation can go a long way towards improving mental and brain health as well.
Yeah, I mean, we just looking back, because we're foster parents, and most foster kids are labelled ADHD.
Yeah, that's what I say.
I do not know any of them that aren't. To be honest.
That's where the mental and emotional aspect comes in. It's really interesting. Bipolar disorder, which used to be called manic depressive disorder when I was in pharmacy school, now they call it bipolar disorder, and ADHD have something in common. And that is not the ability to focus, or the lack of the ability to focus, is kind of a coping mechanism for kids who are dealing with problems, emotional problems. If you're going up and you're going down, it's a way of diverting your attention from your problems. If you have problems focusing and you're scattered, a lot of times that could be a way of coping with emotional or mental health problems. So it's not unusual for kids who have had some kind of trauma, like foster kids, and that, make no mistake about it, that can be very traumatizing for a child, even though kids are resilient and you can't always see the problems at first glance. It's not an accident that foster kids tend to have these kinds of emotional issues, as well as ADHD or problems focusing, because of the significant mental and emotional component. And that's why I'm always a little bit hesitant to talk strictly about nutrition when it comes to mental and emotional health challenges. That being said, more protein, more fats, more veggies, nutritional supplements that are important for the brain, particularly B vitamins and the fats, and staying away from the standard American breakfast, or the standard Western breakfast, we'll say, of cereal and Danishes and Pop-Tarts and very high sugar, ultra processed kinds of foods.
It's interesting. The reason I brought that up was it's interesting you say that, because he was 8 when he came to us, and the department and carers had had him for, oh, just give him this, just give him that, and all of it was bad. There was
In terms of
nothing
food, you're talking about foods or medication?
wise and
Yeah,
other things. And
yeah.
we removed all that. He didn't like
And
it first, and oh my, the difference,
big difference, big difference.
absolutely amazing.
Yes,
And we
yeah.
played classical very, very quietly.
Calming music. Yeah.
We had a system. My husband set up a system and had played it in there very gently, particularly at night as he was about to go to sleep. And he found that very calming, and it changed him
That's
dramatically.
huge.
And another thing that changed him, and we got him off all his medication actually, because of what we did and the supplements. But before I got the longevity things, we had our Sol and Smart Stick, the hydration sticks. Smart for focus, Sol for calming. We added those together in his water along with the cornmeal to help his immune system.
Very nice.
And the teachers noticed the difference.
That's awesome. Yeah, a couple things that brings to mind is if there are digestive issues, digestive toxicity can lead to anxiety and emotional issues, anger issues, inability to focus. So you got to work on digestive health issues as well. And then I think the article, correct me if I'm wrong, Bronie, because I also sent a couple articles to Michelle, and I'm not sure if I sent you the one on, was it the one on the medication causing psychosis?
Yes.
And so that was really interesting because the article was talking about how Adderall and ADHD medication, Adderall, I don't know what you call your version of Adderall in
I can't remember. It's been a while now.
Yeah, they've got their own version of it.
All of it.
Yeah, so the article was talking about how ADHD medication can cause psychosis, and really, and Michelle and I did a video on this. When I first read it, I thought of Dr. Wallach, how Dr. Wallach goes, duh. Did you ever hear him go like that? Yeah, duh. And that's the first thing that came to mind, because what do you think these drugs are? Ritalin and Adderall and these ADHD drugs, Adderall especially. These are amphetamines. They're not methamphetamine. They're very similar to methamphetamine. And we all know, and healthcare professionals know anyway, that when people inject meth or smoke meth, they go crazy. They become psychotic. And that's what we're giving our kids. And so it's easy to kind of get ticked off at a healthcare professional who gives a kid speed, amphetamine. I don't know if they still call it speed. They called it speed when I was a kid. To give a kid amphetamines to help them concentrate, it's really easy to get angry at our healthcare professionals who think that's okay to give a little child amphetamine because they can't concentrate, and not even mention B vitamins or changing the way they eat. But if we go to a physician or we go to a psychiatrist, and that's what's going to happen. We can't really get mad at them for doing what they do. It's up to us to take care of our own children, up to us to take care of our loved ones, and up to us to take care of ourselves, and not blame the medical model for what they do, because that's what they do. You go to a doctor for your kid's ADHD, you're gonna leave with amphetamines.
Yes,
and in your country, it's even worse because if you don't put your kid on amphetamines in Australia and New Zealand, you could lose your kid.
Exactly.
And if you don't, right? Yeah. So it's even worse there.
And they didn't. The department didn't like it that we actually weaned him off. Thankfully, we ended up with a good pediatrician after he came to us. He was didn't have him at first. He had someone else, and she was from South Africa, and her parents were herbalists. So when she saw what we were doing and the change in him, and she helped us wean him off, and he's not on any medication whatsoever now.
That's on it. Yeah, notice
and he's a different child.
Notice how they flare up when they eat certain foods. I had a friend. I used to go get a juice. We had a health food store here in Boulder that I used to go get a juice every morning, and I'd get in there before I went to work. I'd get there about 8:30 in the morning. There was this schizophrenic guy. His name was Greg, and he took a liking to me, and he would always say hi. He had this really weird schizophrenic way of talking. Hi, Ben. Like kind of a little bit crazy. And I got to talking to him, and he would tell me. He said to me, take this medication. I hate the medication. And he would always be drinking this big 64-ounce cup of Coca-Cola while he was doing it. And so I said, Greg, we can do a little experiment. And I took him over to the salad bar and I picked out some stuff for him. Got some eggs and I got basically protein and veggies. Got some eggs and got some veggies. And this would be our little ritual. And within a week of him changing the way he ate, he wasn't drinking the Coca-Cola anymore. And he was a new man. And he was off his meds eventually. He ended up going back on the wagon. But for a while, he was like a new person without medication, simply because of what he was eating, without even supplementing, just changing the way he was eating. I didn't even get a chance to put him on supplements. Now, like I say, he went back to his meds and he ended up, falling off the wagon. And I came back. I stopped going out. The store is called Alfalfa's. I stopped going to Alfalfa's. And I came back a few months later and he was back doing his Coke and had his little crazy, hey, man, crazy way of talking. And, but for a while, I could see literally as he was eating his foods, how his mental health was changing. So while, yes, you got to address mental and emotional health issues on that level, there's so much we can do for anxiety and depression and schizophrenia and ADHD and what are supposedly strictly mental and emotional issues by changing the way we eat or we feed our kids, making sure that you get key nutritional supplements. Last thing is for folks that have kids who have ADHD or anybody who has a mental health problem or cognitive issues and older folks, Synaptive is specific has specific nutrients for brain health, organic brain health. So the Synaptive is something else that you might want to consider.
Yes, we did that too. Yeah, and like your friend, we noticed a difference in him when he snuck foods he shouldn't, and he didn't get them from us. I can tell you that. But what kids like at school.
That's what it is. It's very difficult, because you're up against an entire culture that is a corporate culture that's promoting these foods in the schools. When I was in kindergarten, Kellogg's sponsored our height. And Tony the Tiger, I don't know, Tony the Tiger is a cartoon character that's associated with certain foods. There's a big picture of Tony the Tiger, and they would measure our height again on this poster, and we had to look at Tony the Tiger every time we got our height measured. And it's just very difficult to go against that. But that's the world we live in, and that's the world we constructed, and it's up to parents, and it's a parental responsibility to make sure a kid is shielded, inured against the corporate cultural attack on our psyches, which, kids, by the time a kid is 8 years old, he's watched hundreds, if not thousands of hours of commercials about various cereals and drinks and different candies, things that the kid has to ingest. And obviously it's tough to go against that, but that's our job.
Well, I when he was in primary school, the principal was very much on our side. When he got to high school, and if they ever contacted me and said, oh, he's gone off the rails, I said, okay. I didn't send him with anything harmful. What's he been given? What are you giving him? What has he snuck? He might, do a trade with a friend and give them his healthy lunch, and he'd take their rubbish lunch. And I said, not allowed to do that. Anyway, that's beside the point. Now, right. I have a few questions. I was looking. I can't see the lady from the UK on, sorry, unless she snuck in, because I wanted to go to her first. If she ended up coming in, I don't know who mine is, whether that's her or Charlotte, her name is. If she happens to be there, put her hand up. But I do have, if not, we'll go into a question, and if she sneaks in, because she had a migraine, so it will, she may not be in. It's 1:30 in the morning. But I have a question from one of my clients in the US, and she wants to know how to help neuropathy in the feet. She has a friend. He is 68, 5'9", 180 pounds. His feet are sensitive to touch. He's a golfer and he's active. He's an active person. He started therapy 2 weeks ago doing red light, foot vibration, electric stimulation, taking alpha lipto acid supplements 3 times a day. Also, is there anything to place inside shoes to help stimulate circulation? Did you get all that?
I got all that. Yes, ma'am. That's a condition called neuropathy or peripheral neuropathy because it's on the periphery, the hands, the feet, the fingers, and the toes. Very, very common. And it is a classic symptom of dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, and almost always associated with this condition. Now, there are also nutritional deficiencies. Interestingly, the nutrients that are helpful for folks who are dealing with peripheral neuropathy also help your blood sugar. See what I'm saying here? So this is a blood sugar issue, and it should be regarded as a blood sugar condition. The very first vitamin that was discovered in the 1890s, the late 19th century, was, do you know, Bronie, what the first vitamin was?
Was it a B? Was it an A?
Well, A. Don't be looking it up on Google.
C.
Does anybody know out there?
C?
Everybody's saying C. It was not C, no. It was vitamin B1.
I said B, C. I said
you were close. You were close.
But then, you know, going through the alphabet, I figured, oh well, maybe it was A.
No, it was B1. That's why I call it B1. It was the very first vitamin to be discovered. You know how it was discovered? When the United States became an empire, they started to, in the late 19th century, in the late 1800s, the United States was starting to feel its muscle, and they were going out to different countries and colonizing different countries. And then they went to the Philippines, they went to the Far East, and when they went there, they brought their food with them. And they gave the Americans brought the food, especially the staple food, which was like grains and rice especially, because in the Far East they ate a lot of rice, and they started giving the people in the Philippines American rice. Well, Americans were eating a different kind of rice than the natives in the Philippines were eating. In America, we love white. We consider things that are brown to be less appealing. And so we brought our white rice with us, and we started to feed the indigenous population in the Philippines and in the Far East. We started to feed them white rice, and they wanted to be like Americans, so they kind of threw their natural rice out, their brown rice out, and they started eating our white rice. And all of a sudden, they started to suffer from nerve diseases.
Interesting.
Very severe nerve diseases. In fact, they started to suffer from these diseases where they couldn't move. And one of the symptoms of these nerve diseases was neuropathies, peripheral neuropathies. And so scientists said, well, there seems to be something wrong here, because these natives, these indigenous people, they didn't have any of these illnesses until they started to eat our food. And so they started to look at the rice, because that was what the indigenous people were eating, a lot of rice. That was a big part of their diet. And so they focused in on the rice, and they said, well, they're eating a different kind of rice. They're eating a polished rice. To make the rice white, you got to polish it. And in order to make the rice white, to polish it, you get rid of all the brown stuff. They call the polishings. The polishings were the brown stuff. So I said, I wonder if there's anything in the polishings that's causing, and this is before anybody knew what vitamins were. Back then, in the 1890s, we knew about protein, fats, and carbohydrates. That's it. We didn't know there were these things called minerals and vitamins and fatty acids and amino acids. We just thought food was just protein, fats, and carbohydrates, because we didn't have the fancy detection mechanisms to find these tiny amounts of chemicals that were micronutrients, vitamins, with the mighty 90 essential nutrients, essentially. So they started to do some experiments, excuse me, and they took the polishings and they gave it to the natives who were suffering from the neuropathies and the nerve diseases. And lo and behold, the neuropathies went away and the nerve diseases went away. So they said, okay, there's something in these polishings that's curing diseases. And they started examining it. Bingo. They discovered the very first vitamin, which is vitamin B1, thiamine, which is literally the vitamin that's used to reverse peripheral neuropathy, as well as severe neural diseases that affect the heart and the digestive system and the brain. And it turns out that vitamin B1, also known as thiamine, is not only used by the body to process sugar, it also plays a very important role in the nervous system. What is this telling you? The more sugar you're eating and alcohol you're drinking, by the way, because alcohol also requires thiamine to be processed, the more deficient you're going to be in the very vitamin that's critical for mental health, brain health, as well as nerve health, as well as neuropathies. So while peripheral neuropathy, to answer your question, while peripheral neuropathy goes hand in hand with dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, you can use thiamine, vitamin B1, which is in your Beyond Tangy Tangerine in very high concentrations, as one treatment. You can also use, as this person has been advised correctly, alpha lipoic acid, which also plays a role in energy in the body. And most importantly, or not most importantly, as importantly, this person who's 5'9" and weighs 180 should consider themselves to be a dysglycemic, at least, if not a full-blown diabetic. And I don't know if they've been diagnosed as such or if they're being treated as such, but that symptom of peripheral neuropathy does not happen in a vacuum. And the chances are very good there are other dysglycemic symptoms or diabetic symptoms, including cardiovascular symptoms, as well as weight symptoms and hormonal issues, all of which are linked to dysglycemia. So this patient, in addition to being on thiamine through the Beyond Tangy Tangerine and the alpha lipoic acid, which he's already taking, should be on the sweeties and should be treating themselves as if they were a diabetic, even if they haven't been diagnosed as such. They can pretty much assume that they have at least dysglycemia, which means messed up blood sugar, if not full-blown diabetes.
Yeah, I mean, when they're asking for stimulation of the circulation in the feet, to put something in the feet,
that'll help. But you see, that'll help. But what the problem is when you have dysglycemia, I hope you're understanding the distinction I'm making between dysglycemia, which is not a diagnosis, that's just a biochemical phenomena, disturbances in blood sugar, versus diabetes, which is official diagnosis. So if you have dysglycemia, disturbances in blood sugar, your blood sugar is not being controlled, so the sugar levels in your blood go up. Sugar burns tissue. It's very caustic, very hot, and it burns blood vessels, especially in the fingers, the toes, the eyes, and it's responsible for a lot of problems at the hand level, the hands and feet and eyes, and kidneys for that matter, by virtue of its ability to burn tiny blood vessels. It's called glycation. And this glycation response can occur at the levels of the nerves in the extremities, and that's what accounts for the peripheral neuropathy, but it can also cause eye diseases, including blindness, and it's also a leading cause of blindness. And dysglycemia, or this burning effect, can also burn blood vessels that affect the heart. In fact, I don't know what you call it in Australia and New Zealand, but here in the United States, diabetics have to have a test called the hemoglobin A1C test. You heard of that? Hemoglobin A1C. You probably have your own name for it. The hemoglobin A1C test is a test that determines how fast or how significant your hemoglobin is glycating, is sugaring, is candying. Hemoglobin is a protein. So that same kind of burning reaction that occurs in the blood vessels happens to your hemoglobin, and they can actually measure it, and that's how they determine how well your anti-diabetic medication is working or how well your blood sugar is being controlled.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, while we've been talking on that, and I don't know if Annie can unmute, but she has a friend who was told she got neuropathic because of B vitamin toxicity.
Well,
that the B vitamin built up in her muscles, causing toxicity.
Yeah, so if I told you the moon is made of green cheese, would you argue with me? If I said to you the moon is made of green cheese, would you argue? Say, no, it's not made of green cheese. That's ridiculous. Well, for somebody to say that is just as ridiculous as somebody's telling you the moon's made of green cheese. So I'm not even going to address that. We'll just go next question. I don't like talking about silly stuff like that.
No, it just that's what I think
that's
what she was making.
You know, there was a famous physicist named Richard Feynman who used to, whenever somebody said something that was really ridiculous, he would go, "That's not even wrong." And that's kind of where that's the category we'll place that in. That's not even wrong. So next.
It's ridiculous. That's what she said. It's ridiculous. I know she agrees. I know she has a question, but first of all, we're going to go to Loris.
By the way, B vitamins are water soluble. They're urinated out. There's nobody you can't have too much B vitamins. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not quite sure how to say this late. Is it Loris?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Loris has a question for you, Ben. Go ahead.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
Hi, Loris. Nice to see you.
How you going? Yeah, I jumped on a bit late because I couldn't hear, so I had a bit of a problem there. But look,
Thank you, Loris.
interesting.
Is that me? I can't really hear Loris.
I can't hear it. Me.
I'm
think you're cutting-
struggling too.
You're cutting out, Loris. I can't really hear you.
Hang on. Michelle, can you hop on with her?
Hey, Loris, you're breaking up.
Oh, this was what happened last time. I never got nowhere.
Yeah,
This is getting annoying
yeah.
Oh,
because
man.
can you hear me okay, Michelle?
No.
No, it's all breaking up.
Michelle, can you hop on? Can you unmute? Can you put your camera on and hop on with her?
Well, I don't know what her question, so I'm
Okay.
I'm only
Maybe type it in the
speaking.
chat. Maybe if Loris can type it in the chat.
Yeah.
Just try again. Just try again, Loris. Just see how we go.
Is that better? Is that any better?
No.
Yeah.
It
Sally,
started
why don't
out.
you type
It
it, type it in the chat, and I'll look in the chat.
Okay. Well, while she's typing in the chat, did anyone else have a
Yep.
question?
Bronie?
Yes, Grant.
Dry eye. One of my sisters has dry eye.
Yeah, dry eye. You guys, listen. I want to be very careful about doing this for that. Because that's our tendency to say, I have this problem, what do I take? It's not really like that. That being said, dry eyes should be regarded as a fat problem. There's a layer of fat on the eyes that traps water in the eye. The eyeball is made up of, believe it or not, high hyaluronic acid. Did you know that, Bronie? High hyaluronic acid for your skin. That largely makes up your eyeball, and the eyeball obviously needs to hold on to water. It's probably 80-90% water, the eyeball. When that layer of fat is not formed properly, water evaporates. And this is what accounts for dry eye. So I could tell you that you want to use your ultimate EFAs and probably fatty vitamins as well. However, if you have any absorption issues, which most people do, particularly as they get older, you're not going to get the maximum benefit from your ultimate EFAs, which means you've got to work at the level of the digestive system too. Now, does this person have a gallbladder? That's another issue. Or do they have fatty liver issues? Or they have intestinal issues? It's not as simple as, oh, just take this up. I got this problem and take the supplement. You got to work on the whole system. This is why Dr. Wallach has all these kits and these systems. So dry eye is especially if it's associated with aging, is usually associated with a fat deficiency. Essential fats are the solution. But if you're not absorbing your essential fats, either because you have a gallbladder issue or an intestinal issue or a liver issue or a pancreatic issue, you've got to address those as well, which means the whole digestive support strategy. And this is why you have to look at the body as a whole system. It's not a bunch of parts where you can just treat this part and that part. You got to treat the entire system. And this is why longevity is so important. This is why Doc always says you can't just talk about this supplement or that supplement. You got to talk about the entire mighty 90 essential nutrients. And in this case, in particular, you also have to talk about digestive support. So what I would be asking this patient is what else is going on? And this is where the concept of triangulation comes in. Triangulation is when you get 3 points to form a picture. And that's why I always give that example of Bob Ross, the painter, who would just put splashes of paint and a picture would emerge. So you want to have multiple points for this patient. I'm sorry, Albert, is this a friend of yours? Who asked the question?
Grant.
I did. Yeah.
Grant. So Grant, is this a friend of yours or
It's
somebody
my
you know?
sister. My sister.
Okay, then you want to ask about other things going on. How old is she?
65.
So chances are there's all kinds of other things going on. Unless we know what, we're really, really scientists about taking care of ourselves. By the time we're 65, all kinds of things are happening. Nobody just has dry eye.
Yeah, I agree.
These things do not occur in a vacuum. You can't just wake up one day, you're perfectly healthy. Oh, I got dry eye. No, it's part of a syndrome, meaning multiple symptoms. So what I would ask your sister, first of all, it's our triangle disease. First of all, where are there digestive issues? Are you absorbing your foods properly? Do you notice you're constipated? Do you have runny stools? Do you have gas, bloating, crampy, heartburn? All the digestive support, because you want to make sure that she's absorbing her nutrients. And remember, when you have intestinal issues, not only is toxicity getting into the bloodstream, but you're also not absorbing. So those are areas that you want to work with. But dry eyes are typically a fat issue involving either intake of fats or absorption of fats.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ben. Sorry. Thank you so much.
Pharmacist Ben. Thank
If
you.
I know it's Pharmacist Ben, yeah, I got it right.
Thank you, Grant.
You're kind of like a doctor to me, though.
Oh dear.
Can you hear me better now? Or
No, it's still cracking up.
I wonder why, because it's everything's fine. The signal's fine. It seems to be I just can't. I phone, okay?
I'm so sorry. I can't make heads or tails out of that.
I know it's so bloody annoying. I'll come back. Good.
Okay. We'll just mute you and we'll go to another question while we're waiting. Now, Michelle, I know you had a question for Anne. Is Anne able to unmute or not and ask? Or...
No, Annie is at work, so she's just listening in. So I'll just read what the situation is. Her 73-year-old mother has had 3 mini strokes and she's got early onset dementia. Some of the background is she lives in an isolated situation. She's like away from family. She's a smoker. She doesn't move much. She has had the COVID vaxes and she's got rheumatoid arthritis. So there you have it. What would you recommend?
What I recommend?
Mm.
You know, whenever I hear cases like this all the time, I think of like, do you guys remember the Ford Pinto? You ever hear of a Ford Pinto? There's a car, no?
Oh, yes.
I think of a little jalopy driving down the road with the bumpers falling out and wires holding up the bumpers and plastic wrap instead of windows and cracks everywhere. And, you know, it's just falling apart. So first of all, smoking robs the brain of oxygen. It changes the constituency of the blood. And of course, it's going to lead to strokes. Hopefully she doesn't smoke anymore, right? She quit smoking, I'm assuming. Hopefully she did. Right? She's still, no,
I think she's still smoking. Yeah.
Come on.
Okay.
You know, we know normal, healthy people just assume that everybody wants to be healthy and everybody wants to live a long life and everybody wants to be strong, but that's not always the case.
Mm.
You know, there are people who will actually take off their oxygen so they can smoke. You know, so we've got to assume that not everybody wants to be maximally healthy. But the good news is the body is so loving and so forgiving that you can do a lot by just putting nutrients in the system. Get her on the Healthy Start Pack. Get her on everything. And I would be surprised if she actually does it, but if she does it, she could actually change her life, even if she still smokes, even if she still has all of her issues, because she's probably, in addition to burdening her body with the toxicity, she's probably severely malnourished. So pounding nutrients in the system can make a difference. It's not going to completely reverse the situation, but it can make a significant difference in her quality of life, as well as the quality of life of her caretakers.
Great. And he's saying,
if you want to just start off slow, if you want to start off slow, just be on Tangy Tangerine. I'm sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
And he's texting and saying, yes, she's going to do that. She's going to order the lot for her mother.
Yes, and get her my dad, I've told this story before, but I'll tell you again, my dad had dementia, it's pretty severely. And when I went to visit him in the nursing home, I would bring him Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And they would get mad and the nurses and the doctors, they wouldn't let me do it, so I'd have to smuggle it. But as he was drinking the BTT I would make for him, I could see his affect changing. As he was drinking the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, I could see he was becoming more cogent. And there's more clarity and there's more life in his eyes and in his face as he was drinking the BTT. And he wasn't taking care of himself and he wasn't eating right. And, you know, he had pretty severe dementia. So there's a lot you could do with this wonderful, incredible, nutrient-dense powder to liquid format. Because it's so dense, it bypasses digestive issues. It goes into the blood quickly. And if somebody's really deficient, and chances are this person is really deficient, they'll notice results quickly. Is she going to take care of her stroke and her cognitive and her dementia and all the other things? Unlikely, because she's still doing all this toxicity stuff, but she's going to feel better. She's going to improve her quality of life, and her caretaker's quality of life will improve as well.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you, Annie. Hopefully that answered the question.
Is that better now?
Oh yeah, much better.
Ah,
What'd you do?
I put it on my phone and took it off my tablet. So sorry,
yeah,
I'm so
much better,
sorry
much
about that.
So
No
where
worries.
are you? Where are you? I'm trying to find you.
I'm in the same place as Annie, believe it or not. She's just
No, no,
down
no,
the
no,
road.
no, no, no. Oh, I'm just trying to find you to
Yeah,
spotlight you.
yeah. So we're both on the Gold Coast in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how a different device can make the world of difference. So go ahead while you've got me.
Go ahead,
Yeah, look,
Loris.
I've got to say that thing that you spoke about on the bipolar and the ADHD and all of that. Now the gardener's coming. So
Well, he can
they
wait.
that was very interesting, and I'll be going back to the recording to listen to that. But getting back to you, I've actually just started the trifecta, like the osteo, the tangerine, and the fish oil, right? So me and my husband have just started it, and I have psoriasis. So I have an autoimmune, and I have psoriasis, and I've got to say, I'm already in a week seeing a difference in my skin.
Awesome.
Is that possible? I mean,
Yes,
seriously.
it is very possible.
100% possible. The skin is one of the first
Speaking from
places where you'll
experience.
notice results because the skin turns over very rapidly. In fact, the skin and the digestive tract are the fastest moving tissues in the body. And so those are the two areas where you're going to notice changes dramatically and quickly, is in the skin
Right.
and in the intestine, the digestive tract in general. Now, as you said,
Right.
psoriasis is an autoimmune disease, and you nailed it. Autoimmune diseases are the end result of toxicity that goes into the blood. The mainstream medical model, the mainstream medical folks here in the United States, and especially in countries where you have free medicine, unfortunately, they'll tell you there's no cause, it's genetic, they don't know what to do, you're going to be on medicine the rest of your life. I'm going to tell you what causes it, and you can tell your doctor. So you'll be smarter than your doctor. Psoriasis is multiple sclerosis of the skin. Psoriasis is type 1 diabetes of the skin. Psoriasis is rheumatoid arthritis of the skin. Psoriasis is, they're all the same.
They're all
It
the
doesn't
same, just doing different
all the
things.
same. It doesn't matter where they are. And the idiocy that the medical model has of going to sending you to an endocrinologist and a neurologist and a dermatologist and a GI doctor and this specialist and that specialist is obscene because it rips everybody off and doesn't help anybody. And it's absurd because it's crazy to think that the mechanism is different because it happens in different parts of the body. The mechanism is the same, and it involves toxicity in the blood that then gets dumped off into tissues, the thyroid or the skin or the connective tissue or the nerves. That doesn't matter. What matters is the toxicity in the blood. So autoimmunity is a blood toxicity issue. Toxemia, period. Go back to your doctor and tell him. And in fact, they actually will test, I don't know about in your country, but here in this country, they'll actually test your blood for CICs. When you have an autoimmune disease, did they test you for CICs? Loris, did they test you for CICs?
They test me for rheumatoid. They did that
how do they check you? They do a blood test, right?
Yeah, they test me for rheumatoid.
Well, hang on, Loris. Hang on, Loris. Hang on.
Sorry.
I want everybody to listen to this, okay? They do a blood test, right? What does that tell you?
Nothing.
The problem is in the blood. They didn't do a skin test. They didn't do a joint test. They didn't do a nerve test. They did a blood test. What does that tell you? It's hidden in plain sight. People, this is so obvious. They tested the blood because the problem's in the blood.
Yeah.
They test the skin, right? So they're telling you, but they're not connecting the dots. They're not thinking it through. So we have to think it through. They test the blood. What does that tell you? The problem's in the blood. So then how does problems get in the blood? Well, Loris, are you in the back alley shooting things up in your arm? Are you shooting up heroin and crack in the back alleys? Well, no, obviously you're not. So how else do things get into your blood? Hello. All right, Loris, psychic reading. I'm going to do a psychic reading for Loris. Loris, I'm seeing you. Oh, you're on Zoom. Of course I'm seeing you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm teasing. Oh, Loris, I'm psychic reading. Loris is coming to me. You have had a digestive issue for many years. Oh, Psychic Ben. No, I'm not Psychic Ben. I'm Pharmacist Ben. But that's how it happens. That's how it
Yeah.
happens. Toxicity gets into the blood. Now, Loris, you can take care of this yourself. The next time you flare up, go back to what you ate. And in fact, even better, just do a food diary and link.
Yeah, definitely. And doing
link
a food
them.
diary. Yeah.
Just do a food diary and you'll see the issues. It's always going to be associated with food, and you can do this yourself. Now, here's the issue with psoriasis, though, Loris. Psoriasis may look like it's just a skin disease. It's a very, very serious issue.
Oh,
And
I
it's
know. I know.
associated- It's very serious. It's associated with cancer and heart disease and a shortened lifespan and a whole bunch of other things. So you want to take it very seriously. And the reason it's associated with all this is because your blood is contaminated, it's toxic, and the blood is going everywhere. So all autoimmunity needs to be regarded as blood toxicity, and blood toxicity, unless you're injecting, needs to be regarded as a food problem. Now, I will say that people who injected with the you-know-what, they are more prone towards health challenges via this blood contamination issue. But leaving that aside, it's usually going to come in through food.
And with the food and everything, so I would definitely be like, I would have leaky gut, all of that type of thing. That is just, but I think reversing that cause is, people talk about the pill. I would love to take a pill to
What
reverse the
pill?
cause.
What pill? There's no
Any
pill.
any pill to reverse that
There's no
bloody
pill.
cause.
The
There is
latest
no
drugs,
pill.
there's no pill. There's no pill.
No, I
the
know.
latest
You've
drugs
just gotta
they
do the
do,
work.
you got to do the work. The latest drugs they give are called biologics. You may have heard that term. Dupixent and Stelara, and things are getting clearer now. We have all these commercials. They sing songs and they do Broadway specials on the commercials where they dance and they sing because they want to sell you the drugs. They all work by shooting down the immune system. The immune system is made up of proteins, antibodies, and they shoot down the antibodies. They don't stop the body's making antibodies presumably for a reason. They don't do anything about that. They just shoot down the antibodies. That's the only drugs they can give you, and they don't really work because they don't take care of the problem.
So
Okay?
with I've got that. So
now, especially, let me just tell you one more thing.
Yeah.
Psoriasis, skin issues, including psoriasis, are related to problems with fats and fatty vitamins. When you're not processing your food correctly, very often you're not absorbing your fats and your fatty vitamins because they're very complicated. So in order for fats and fatty vitamins to be absorbed and utilized, your liver and your pancreas and your intestine and the gallbladder and all of these systems have to be functioning efficiently, and oftentimes they're not. So in addition to working on the digestive system, you want to make sure that you're using fatty nutrients and also fatty minerals like zinc and selenium. Those are especially important, as well as vitamin D and vitamin A and essential fatty acids. And by the way, one last thing I'll tell you. Let me tell you one last thing.
Yeah.
The sun can be very helpful for psoriatic plaques via vitamin D.
Yeah. So do you say zinc and fatty acids? Is that what you said? Like EFA?
Zinc FX, ultimate selenium, ultimate EFAs, and then the Healthy Start Pack.
Right. So I should get zinc on. Well, I do take zinc anyway. I've just
zinc FX. Get on the zinc. Yeah, you want about 50 milligrams a day.
So with that, is that enough, or do I need to put more in my system to get through this? Because I went to
I would get the zinc. I would get the zinc F. Or Loris, are you doing longevity? Are you a distributor? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, so whoever's helping you, who's helping you, Michelle or Bronie?
Yeah,
working with you? Michelle. So Michelle, I would get if Michelle's still on the call.
Yep. Still here.
Okay, I would get Loris the ultimate selenium.
Yep.
And the zinc FX.
Right.
In addition to the Healthy Start Pack.
Okay.
And then and then we also want to work on the digestive system too. Very important that you work on the digestive system, the leaky gut, the gas, the bloating. Probably there's SIBO, I-26, the whole digestive stuff. That's the most important part. That's for longevity, for reversal of health challenges, for quality of life, digestive system, and the digestive supplements as well.
So you're saying she needs to be sure she's absorbing the fats. Does she need enzymes?
Probably. I would do the whole digestive stuff, nightly essence, ultimate enzymes, ultimate microbiome, I-26, all the digestive stuff. We want to correct the digestive problems, and then we also want to work on the supplements. But correcting the digestive problems is the first thing you want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vitamin D, vitamin
Thank you,
D3.
Loris.
Or...
Yes, vitamin D. But the best way to get your vitamin D is the sun.
Yeah, I know. I live in Australia. Still
You
don't
live in
get enough
Australia.
sun. Still don't
You
get enough
live
sun.
on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, and I work in the house, but that's all. I do get out. I do get out.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for
Thank
that.
you very much.
Is
Thank
that,
you very much.
are you good now?
Thank you, Loris.
Well, I did
Thank
want
you
to
so
ask
much.
questions about my husband, but other
No,
people
no,
want to
no,
ask
go ahead.
questions.
Go ahead while you have the
Ask me
floor.
about your husband. Tell me about your husband.
Oh, shit. Well, he from 55, right? He's now 69, right? He developed type 2 diabetes and he developed blood pressure. Like both of those at 55. He was always been very athletic and always done things, but so he's been on statins for too long. I know that, but he has problems with his heart pressure up and down, up and down. So if he doesn't have his statins, then or his blood pressure, he will it'll soar. And I'm in the 200s. You know, I don't know what you do in America, but
Wait, the statins are helping with his blood pressure?
well, no cholesterol.
Okay, I see. You meant cholesterol. Okay,
Yeah, and
gotcha.
he's never smoked. He's never smoked in his life. I wouldn't
No,
say
he's got
he's a
blood
big
sugar
drinker.
problem. No, listen. Have you heard me talk about the triangle of disease?
Yeah, you just talked about that. You said it was
Okay, that's the core of everything: the digestive system, the blood sugar system, and then the adrenal thyroid axis. So we're not going to talk about the adrenal thyroid axis because his problems are with the blood sugar and also digestion, because that's the bottom of the triangle. So treat him like he's a diabetic with the healthy blood sugar pack, and then he's probably has underlying digestive issues. So with you guys can do that together. You can work on your digestion together and have him take care of the healthy blood sugar. Have him use the healthy blood sugar pack. Now, there's a couple other hacks you can use for blood pressure to lower blood pressure. One is oxygen. Slow, deep breathing will lower blood pressure. Also, warm water will lower blood pressure, like a bath. In fact, you can test this yourself. You have a blood pressure cuff? Does he have a blood pressure cuff? Have him take his blood pressure, then sit in a warm bath for 15 or 20 minutes, warm, and then take his blood pressure again. Guess what's going to happen? His blood pressure will drop like a stone. In fact, you may notice when you get out of a warm bath or hot bath, you feel a little dizzy, a little woozy. That ever happened to you?
Yeah,
You know why that happens? The blood
Blood
pressure drops. Exactly.
Hmm.
Again, hidden in plain sight right there. What your doctor should be doing is saying, 1 hot tub for Loris's husband. Hot tub twice a day. That's the kind of health care you need, not drugs. We all
Well,
know
with the
when
drugs,
you sit in hot water, your blood pressure drops.
yeah.
Obviously.
Well, I've noticed that with the drugs, ever since he's retired and whatever, his muscle, I just feel like he's losing his muscle.
Statin drugs are notorious for causing muscle wasting.
Oh,
It's one of the symptoms of statin drugs, of taking statin drugs, is muscle issues. In fact, there's a full-blown muscle disease that some people get, and that's the main toxicity associated with statin drugs is a full-blown muscle disease. He may not have that, but he may start having some muscle issues. Cholesterol is important for the muscles. So you stop the body from making cholesterol, one of the things that happens, you get muscle problems. It's very common.
So he's on this at the moment.
That'll help. But you want to lower his cholesterol naturally by controlling his blood sugar. So I would get on the healthy blood sugar pack.
Healthy blood sugar pack. Okay. Gary.
Okay.
No worries. Thank you.
I would also
Thank you,
suggest
Loris.
maybe
Thank
one
you
of
so
our
much.
shakes to help his.
And the TMR shake, yes, absolutely. The TMR shake, that'll help him build muscle. And then also working out.
Yeah.
TMR shake.
TMR.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Loris. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Now, are you finished now?
Yeah, I don't want to take up that much time, so I'm really sorry.
No, you're good.
I have to go soon. So let's.
Okay. Well, I have Karen. Karen has a question in the chat.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if she wants to bring her room on or her private one. Karen, can you unmute and ask that question, please? Wherever she's hiding. Are you listening, Karen? She's not.
Just read it because I can't pronounce the two words.
And Bronie can.
Oh, and you think I can? Here, I'm dyslexic.
Why
No, I can't.
don't you spell it for me? Spell it.
She's put it in the chat there.
Okay, where is it in the chat here?
Okay, let me see. Or did she send it to me privately?
No, in the chat.
Hereditary
Hereditary spherocytosis.
That's it.
That's it. Bingo.
And she met a lady last Saturday whose 8-year-old has this and is getting her spleen removed. And Karen
Okay,
just
so
wants to know.
that's just more, you know, that's just unfortunately the way that works. You know, you need your spleen, and you don't take your spleen out because you got spherocytosis. Spherocytosis is a issue where the blood cells, the red blood cells, don't form correctly. They have a defective membrane, and the spleen, which is responsible for processing red blood cells, starts to get really big because it gets clogged up. It can't process the blood cells. So the doctor's strategy is to take the spleen out, which is like cutting off your head because you have a headache. You know, it's ludicrous, but that's what they do, and they're doing it to an 8-year-old. You know, how they live with themselves, I don't know, but that's what they do, and that's the world we live in. So again, the issue is the defective red blood cells. So the question is, why are the red blood cells defective? Why are the membranes not forming? And usually there's going to be either a nutritional deficiency or some problem absorbing the nutrients in combination with toxicity in the blood, which means you go back to the triangle and look for if it's a kid, he probably does. If it's an 8-year-old, there probably isn't any not yet anyway, significant metabolic or blood sugar issues. It's probably digestive in nature. So I would be asking the parents about the digestive issues. Sounds to me like there's toxicity in the blood. I mean, that's usually what causes defective blood cells. It could also be full-blown deficiencies in fats. The membrane, the red blood cell membrane, which is defective when you have this condition, is dependent on fats, like all membranes, like all cell membranes. So if he's not getting the child's not getting essential fatty acids or not absorbing essential fatty acids, that's where you'd want to focus. So I would want to talk to the parents, ask about the kid's digestive issues. If the kid is supplementing, if you want to get the kid on some kind of supplements, get them on a healthy start pack, but especially the fats, particularly the EFAs. Or what you can do, if this is, I don't know if it's a friend of yours, you said you just met her, or what the parent can do is do some research on red blood cell membranes and essential fats and digestive issues, and then show it to the doctor. If the doctor is really concerned, not all of them are, but if this doctor is, then the doctor will say, well, there might be something here. So it's a red blood cell issue. It's a membrane issue. When the red blood cells are not processed correctly by the spleen starts to get enlarged. And that's probably why they want to take the spleen out. But really the problem is in the red blood cell membrane, the shape of the red blood cells.
Did that help, Karen?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. If I do see her again, I'll let her know. Yep.
Thank you. And that's good for everybody to understand. Look, it all boils down to the triangle. Simplify everything. Boils down to the triangle. Hereditary is what they say when they don't know what else to say. There's nothing that is guaranteed hereditary. Just because your mother had it, doesn't mean you're going to have it. That's just what they call it. Hereditary spherocytosis means lots of cells. Cyte means cell. Osis means a lot. And sphero means spherical. The red blood cells are taking on the wrong kind of shape, and they're clogging up the spleen, and that can cause an enlarged spleen and abdominal problems, and that's probably why they want to take the spleen out.
Okay, well, Ben, I heard you say that you needed to go, and
I do need to go unless there's anybody else. I don't want to.
You got time for one more question?
Well, hang on, Karen's room's asking if they have time for one more question.
Hi, Ben. I just want to ask you about folic acid, methylated or not. I mean, I've heard good, bad things about it. No.
It's always better. It's always going to be better when it's methylated, but it's not like it's the end of the world if it's not. Your body can methylate. Most people can methylate. That's not an issue. Now, some people will have a defective, an enzyme that is deficient, in which case they may have some methylation problems, but still the solution is to give methylating agents like the B vitamins and the ultimate enzymes. Those are going to help you methylate if you have a methylating problem. Although methylfolate and methylated nutrients are probably the better, are usually a better way to go.
Okay.
Like methylfolate. That takes the load off the methylating system. But if you happen to have folic acid, it's not the end of the world. You can always methylate. Your body can methylate when it has enough B vitamins and methylating agents.
Right. Okay.
Good? Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah.
All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
everybody.
Well, as I say here in Bronie's World, I ask you all really nicely to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And when you're looking after the triangle of disease, getting it all right, all the lineage, whichever way you want to look at it, your digestive system, then you too will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. And thank you all for coming, and thank you, Ben, for being my gorgeous guest again, and we'll see you in a fortnight.
Okay, in a fortnight. Bye, everybody.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Bye.